Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the 1001 Movies podcast. This time we'll be talking about Clint Eastwood's 1976 western, The Outlaw Josey Wales.
You'll be 10 Bears?
I am 10 Bears.
I'm Josey Wales.
I have heard. You're the Gray Rider. You would not make peace with the Bluecoats. You may go in peace.
I reckon not. Got nowhere to go.
Then you will die.
I came here to die with you. Or live with you. Dying ain't so hard for men like you and me. It's living that's hard. When all you've ever cared about's been butchered or raped. Governments don't live together. People live together. From governments, you don't always get a fair word or a fair fight. Well, I've come here to give you either one, or get either one from you. I came here like this so you'll know my word of death is true. And that my word of life is then true. The bear lives here, the wolf, the antelope, the Comanche, and so will we. Now, we'll only hunt what we need to live on, same as the Comanche does. And every spring, when the grass turns green, the Comanche moves north. He can rest here in peace, butcher some of our cattle, and jerk beef for the journey. The sign of the Comanche, that will be on our lodge. That's my word of life.
And your word of death?
It's here in my pistols, there in your rifles. I'm here for either one.
These things you say we will have, we already have.
That's true. I ain't promising you nothing extra. I'm just giving you life, and you're giving me life. And I'm saying that men can live together without butchering one another.
It's said that governments are achieved by the double tongues. There is iron in your words of death for all Comanche to see. And so there is iron in your words of life. No signed paper can hold the iron. It must come from men. The words of 10 Bears carries the same iron of life and death. It is good that warriors such as we meet in the struggle of life or death. It shall be life.
I don't think there has ever been a cooler badass on the big screen than Clint Eastwood. He picked up where John Wayne and John Ford left off and hasn't stopped running with it since. Whether you recognize him as the man with no name in the 1960s spaghetti westerns, or the director of films such as $1 Million Baby and American Sniper, you can't argue with the simple fact that he is a Hollywood legend. By the early 1960s, Western movies as American audiences knew them were slowly in decline. John Wayne's career as a cowboy on the silver screen was mostly behind him, and John Ford, perhaps the most famous director of the genre ever, had slowly stopped making films. However, while Westerns were hard to find on the big screen, they were a nightly occurrence in televisions across the country. The 1960s brought us Bonanza, Gunsmoke, and Maverick. One of these shows, Rawhide, featured a handsome young actor named Clint Eastwood. and when Italian director Sergio Leone wanted to revive westerns, he chose Eastwood as his muse. Leone made 3 westerns starring Clint Eastwood: A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. These films, though they were made by an Italian, remained the epitome of the 1960s Western and established the foundation of Eastwood's career. He yearned to work behind the camera as well as in front of it, and in 1967, he and his financial advisor, Irving Leonard, formed the Malpaso Company, named for a river near Eastwood's California home. Malpaso went on to finance a slew of films, beginning with Hang 'em High in 1968. 3 years later, Eastwood directed his first film, Play Misty for Me, a thriller which, in retrospect, has an eerily similar plot to 1987's Fatal Attraction. With Malpaso as the production company, Eastwood directed 3 more films, High Plains Drifter, Breezy, and The Eager Sanction, before he made The Outlaw Josey Wales. Like most films of its genre, the plot of Josey Wales is relatively simple. Eastwood, in the titular role, successfully seeks revenge for the murder of his wife and son and becomes a wanted man by the Union soldiers. While evading them to Texas, one by one he picks up a ragtag group of loners and troubled souls, including a contemplative Native American man played by Chief Dan George, an abused young woman, a recently widowed granny, and a doe-eyed waif of a girl who soon develops feelings for Josie. The Outlaw Josey Wales was based on an unpublished novel by Asa Earl Carter, who was a speechwriter for segregationist Alabama Governor George Wallace and a supporter of the KKK. This is remarkable in that the film delivers a rather liberal and enlightened message that was timely for 1976. America was still recovering from the Vietnam War, and it seemed appropriate that the country's mistrust in the government could be expressed in a film about a man who seeks revenge against and subsequently flees from the Union Army. Like most westerns, The Outlaw Josey Wales draws a line between the good guys and the bad guys. However, in this case, the good guys don't all wear clean white hats and shoot guns. Rather, they're an unconventional group of characters drawing strength from each other through their travels. In the film's final scene, that line between the good guys and the bad guys is blurred when Josie must choose whether or not to kill his former friend and betrayer, Fletcher. Rather than the men drawing pistols at dawn, they begrudgingly just part ways. Like his predecessor, Sergio Leone, Eastwood takes time with his films. Although Josey Wales' running time is just about 2 hours, one could easily trim off half an hour. There are sequences of people traveling through the countryside with not much happening. There are protracted conversations, most notably between Eastwood and Chief Dan George, and the script and direction simply allows the viewer to sink into the story. Westerns may be considered a subgenre of action films, but rather than thrust his audience into gunfights and drama, Eastwood permits the story to flow slowly and organically. The film is also perhaps one of Eastwood's most quoted, with snappy one-liners and comebacks. Of course, The Outlaw Josey Wales was just part of the beginning of a successful career for Clint Eastwood in Malpaso. As of this recording, he is credited with directing 34 films, the most recent being American Sniper. One of his most critically acclaimed films is Unforgiven, in which he plays former outlaw Bill Money, who is thrust back into his former life as a hired killer to avenge the beating of a young woman. Unforgiven is often slated by critics as being an unofficial sequel to The Outlaw Josey Wales. Although Bill Money and Josey Wales are 2 entirely different characters, the latter film is about an outlaw who finds enlightenment away from killing and fleeing the law, while the former is about a similar man who finds that same enlightenment being ripped away from him. What did I think of the film? Westerns are a little bit like horror movies. They are in no short supply, and the subpar films greatly outnumber the good ones. The Outlaw Josey Wales is obviously considered one of the genre's better pieces. Why else would it be in the book? But the Western genre simply fails to really interest me for the same reason the genre is so popular. As I stated earlier, in most of them the good guys wear white and the bad guys wear black, and there's no question where anyone stands. The mere title of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a testament to this fact. To me, it seems like the same characters are simply tweaked a little and reset for a new story at the beginning of every film. I know that some of you are screaming at me through your listening devices right now, but it's just not a genre I've grown to appreciate. Unfortunately for me, the Outlaw Josey Wales is no exception. The acting is fine, the script is funny and contemplative, and the action is borderline nail-biting. Nevertheless, the film failed to hook me, and I ended up having to watch it twice for this. I'm a huge fan of Eastwood's later catalog of films. Gran Torino and Mystic River are personal favorites, but for me, this film is simply a notable landmark early in his career. That being said, of course, if you enjoy westerns, give it a look if you haven't done so already. That's all I had to say about the Outlaw Josey Wales. Tune in next time when I talk about Claire Denis' 1999 drama Beau Travail. Remember to look for the podcast on Facebook. Email questions or comments to 1001moviespodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at 1001moviespc, and keep those great iTunes reviews coming. I truly appreciate those of you who contributed since the last episode. See you next time.